But we don't show prep, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show prep.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy, ha ha. It's a 6-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the 6 Rings Kane Show, joined by DJ and Blue, and Josh should be with us shortly. Guys, how's it going?
Good. Can't complain.
Doing great since yesterday. It was a quick one.
It's been a long time since we talked, you know?
Yeah. A lot to reflect on.
Yeah, a lot of changes in the last 48 hours? Less than that, actually. Before we do that, we'll get into we'll talk a little You Break, We'll Fix. So one of our presenting sponsors is You Break, We'll Fix. Have you ever run over a pothole so hard your steering wheel starts to shake? Are you constantly having to refill the air in your tires? If so, there could be a problem with your wheels and not the tires. And You Break, We'll Fix is your solution. You Break, We'll Fix is Miami's premier wheel repair and restoration company with over 20 years of experience. And located in North Miami, it offers quick repairs for damaged wheels and in most cases a free loaner car, which will keep you on the road. If the repair takes longer than a quick repair. If you're looking to maybe get some new wheels, they'll actually refinish them. They have in-house powder coating, machining, and polishing. Makes your car look new. So give Mark a call at 305-748-0112 and make sure you follow them on all socials at You Break, We'll Fix. And if you mention 5 Reasons, you'll get 5.5% off your next repair. That's You Break, We'll Fix, powder coating and wheel repair. Located at 1848 Northeast 143rd Street in North Miami, Florida, 33181, or give them a call at 305-748-0112. All right, guys. So this is it. This is the Canes were last in the ACC championship game in 2017 before we did the show. So we've been building to this point. How are the nerves, DJ?
They're pretty confident. I was just talking to you off air. I think we're going to see a good football game on Saturday. I think Miami will prevail, but this is one of the better quarterbacks that they're going to face. And, I think the secondary will have to be ready. The pass rush will have to build on what they did. What they did, I was going to say last week, but more like 2 days ago. And, I feel confident about what the offense can do, and I know Syracuse has some playmakers, but as long as the defensive line can kind of get to Kyle McCord a little bit, they should be okay. So I feel pretty confident about this game, just as long as, the offense does what we know it can do, and the defense holds its end of the bargain.
What about you, Blue? Nerves are getting ramped up, or how are you feeling?
Oh, this is the game, I look back at when we picked the games in August. I said this was the contest that Miami's going to need. Little did I know that I just thought that they need this game to get into the ACC championship game. I think that was one of the things that I said, and knowing the way it is up at that place, and Miami has never done great. They've won there, but I still harken back to the Donovan McNabb game.
That is the last time Miami lost to Syracuse. And
yeah.
For those wait, hold on, let's do a little test here. DJ, do you know what Blue is referring to?
I do not.
So in 1998,
I was 3 for reference. Okay.
Yeah, well, come on, what were you doing that was more important than this then? In 1998, this is as Butch Davis was building the program back up. This is the first attempt the Canes had at winning the old Big East, and if they'd won that game, they would have won the Big East. Went up to the at the time Carrier Dome and lost 66-13. So Donovan McNabb was the Syracuse quarterback on that day, and the Canes got the full Donovan McNabb experience that day.
That Donovan McNabb guy was pretty good, huh?
Yeah, turns out he was it turns out he's a decent, solid quarterback. Apparently, he might have a future. So that is actually the last time the Canes lost to Syracuse.
Yeah,
beat them. And by a bizarre stat, because I was looking into this, so only once since joining the ACC have they played Syracuse. Just by the way the schedule rotated and teams left and came back in, and that was in 2017, the last time the Canes made the ACC championship game. So if you're interested in like omens or karma or something, that might play in. But that's the only time since 2003 they actually played Maryland more times in the ACC than they have Syracuse, which is just like a weird stat there.
It's getting to be a ritual where Miami plays that the game after Thanksgiving. It's been Pitt a lot now, and you never know from year to year now with the ACC how they're gonna, when they're gonna play these games, and a lot of these people, like I said, it's kind of a homecoming of sorts for a lot of Miami kids on the team. Aronde Gadsden's son, who is amongst the top receivers in the ACC. The kid McCord, as DJ alluded to, is going to put the ball up. And that's the one thing that Miami's going to have to definitely sharpen their pass rush and, not give him all day to throw. And because this is going to be one of those games, as I mentioned yesterday, that's what was the over anyway? Did we look at the opening line?
Let me find the over. The spread I saw.
Well, the spread was 9, I think.
I'm seeing 11 right now.
Oh, was it 11? Okay.
But let me. I'll pull that line while we're talking here.
Yeah. So, but I've got to think that the over under's got to be in the 70s.
I mean, I think it would be
close to 80.
I'm seeing. Let's see. On this one, I am seeing 65.5.
Nah.
That feels low.
Miami kind of almost puts that up by themselves.
Well, I mean, I will say so you brought up about McCord, how they're going to put the ball in the air. They throw more than basically any team in the country. So,
yeah.
How much? I'll start with you on this, DJ, and then we can have Blue kind of follow on here. How tough an adjustment is it going to be? Because Wake Forest is a run-heavy team. The defense played well last weekend. This is a completely opposite system almost.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of an interesting test for the secondary, like I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, because they're not going to have time to settle into the game. It's almost going to be immediate passes, immediate throwing, and they're going to get tested early. I mean, Syracuse has some playmakers. They have obviously McCord and then some very talented receivers. You have Gadsden, I believe his last name was.
Rondé Gadsden.
Oh man, DJ, jeez.
I know. I messed that up, but
no, Rondé Gadsden was. I don't know if you were. I'm assuming you're too young to remember. He was a star wide receiver for the Dolphins for several years.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because that was like during the Chris Chambers days, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Okay, so it's his son.
Yeah, but
All right, so now we can DJ, now we can make you feel old because you can remember one of the players' fathers playing. So
There you go.
there you go.
I'm starting to get to that territory where
Welcome to the club, man.
the players' fathers, and I'm getting gray hair too, so I'm not exactly young. But no, Syracuse does have some playmakers on the outside. For me, like I said, it's important not to give Kyle McCord time because he throws the ball a ton. He has a relatively high completion percentage. I believe he threw for over 400 yards against UConn. I mean, yes, it's UConn, but he can put up numbers. So, I'm kind of interested to see if the Miami pass rush can show up and get to him.
Yeah. Vish made a good point, because they run. Wake Forest was a running team, but you look back at all the passing teams that Miami's faced, Louisville and some of the others, California, and they put up big numbers. And it's just that the fact that the thing that bothers me, and yeah, I got a lot better last week, but that's only because, as Vish said, they run a lot more. But pass protection, we're going to see how, if Miami, which defensive lineman steps up this week and comes up with, because this is one of those games where if you have a good defensive line that you could be wearing 5-6 sacks at the end of the game, even more, because McCord, he's not a run pass option kid. No. He just goes back in the pocket and just hangs out there, maybe scrambles a little bit. And I rewatched their game the other day with UNLV when they played them earlier in the year. Put the ball up 66 times. I mean, and that puts a lot of strain also on your offensive line. If Miami's fresh with the rotation, and I saw you guys were talking about maybe Alston's coming back and, a couple of the other kids, what you need to do is you need to put a rotation, of defensive linemen in there all game, and keep switching people out with Messidor and Bain and, all the rest of the guys in the inside, and just keep putting fresh faces. Scott, just that's the only way you're going to combat this, because if you can wear down their offensive line throughout the course of the game, especially if they're going to be in pass block mode, then I think that's definitely the game plan that they're going over this week, is that, they may run on us here and there, but that's not where it's going to butter their bread. It's the passing game. And if you're a defensive coordinator this week, you're watching all the schemes, you're going back to the games where they lost and where McCord was sacked in a couple of the games. And you're looking at how the offensive line blocks and what you could do from a scheme wise, because certainly Miami's got the talent on the defensive line, just been, one of those things over the last 5, 6, 7 weeks that they just haven't been able to get penetration, and they're going to have to do it this week. And, I'm not worried about Miami's offense. I mean, Syracuse has got a, athletic defense, but that's where Miami's made their mark this year as an offensive team. And I think that, I think this becomes a shootout because of that fact, but I hope I'm wrong, because I think that Miami's got an opportunity with all those defensive linemen and, better linebacker play. And you know what, we were talking last week when, you're kind of yelling and saying, hey, they're not doing crap with the original guys. Put in some young guys. Put in Zaquan Patterson. Put in some of those younger players and let them get an opportunity, to do things. And they did, and they came up with big plays. And as we mentioned yesterday in our, post-game wrap-up, that it's going to be about Miami's defense. I'm not worried about the offense, but it's going to be worrying about Miami's defense and what they could do to get, Syracuse off the field and not have to, give up a lot of points, but, get ahead. And that's a game too, guys, that even if you get ahead by 14 or 21, it's not safe because you got a guy that could wing it and he's going to keep throwing and throwing. And so until those clocks click 000, that game's not going to be over.
Yeah. And you mentioned the deep, this is, and I'll go to you in a second, DJ. This is from, Coach Cristobal's press conference today. They asked about Tyler Barron, whether he was hurt. Nope. Coach's decision to rotate him off the field, and he barely played against Wake Forest. So, yeah, like you said, Blue, they've shuffled. They've kind of, I think part of that off-week analysis is kind of looking at who's not carrying their weight, and it's, pretty shocking. We got to this point with Tyler Barron after the way the season started, but, he played himself off the field, essentially. Go ahead, DJ.
No, yeah, and it really is kind of interesting, and it's a difficult move to make when you consider how highly thought of Barron was at the beginning of the season, and it's always a gutsy move to make those rotations because you never know what you're going to get once you switch things up. But to their credit, they were able to do it. I mean, we talked about maybe rotating some guys in to get a little bit more of a spark on defense, and to their credit, they made those necessary adjustments, and it worked.
Yeah, and it allowed Mesidor to kind of move back to his better position, which is end instead of tackle, and got Ahmad Moten on the field a lot more, and he had a great game. So I do think, well, it'll be interesting to see how they keep the, if we see the similar rotations this week, because as both you and DJ said, like this is a different. Now you need your pass rushing guys in there, not necessarily your run stopping guys. So, there's always some overlap there. Guys like Bain and Mesidor are kind of your best guys at both, but maybe up the middle. Maybe they do look at getting Barron more snaps on the edge and having Mesidor play inside to increase the pass rushing, because that's going to be the task this week. Just some numbers behind McCord. Leads the nation in passing with 3,946 yards, so that's number one. Cam Ward's actually second with 3,774. However,
probably has 200 less attempts.
Yeah, 123 more attempts. McCord is also the leader in attempts by 50 attempts over the next guy, so it's not even really close. And then, interesting enough, his 12 interceptions are second most in the country, so he will turn the ball over. So they're just a volume passing team. Basically, they're gonna throw a lot, which leads to more interceptions, more yardage, more everything, just because they throw a lot.
It's interesting though too because their running back just had a 100-yard game 2 weeks ago, so he's not a bad player at all. But they are a volume passing team.
No, he's a pretty strong kid.
Yeah.
I watched him in a couple of games this year, and I thought he had an opportunity to be pretty special. So, no, you're right. I mean, but they far from mix it up, believe me.
No, they hardly mix it up. But it's just interesting when you look at the type of numbers he can put up.
Yeah, which is interesting because, Blue, you mentioned Louisville as a team that throws a lot, but they're also much more balanced than Syracuse is.
Oh, so, yeah, Isaac Brown ran. And
you'd have to play their running game. They don't necessarily, I mean, not that you're just going to, allow them to run the ball here, but this is a little bit more one-dimensional. Of course, Georgia Tech was one-dimensional running and managed to be effective doing that, so it doesn't necessarily mean the cancel stop them. But this is probably the first team they're playing that's this one-sided in terms of throwing the football. And coming into the year, we're all worried about the secondary. They've sort of held up pretty well. So we'll see. This will be a test for them for sure. As
right. And the thing about Syracuse too is they're senior oriented up front. Their guards and tackles are both seniors. Their centers are 5-year seniors. So they've got a lot of experience up front. And that's like DJ was saying, they're predicated on, using those big wide receivers. I mean, the big play wide receivers, and they're trying to get a little bit of time. The kid, it's like, we talked about Aronde Gadsden's son, who's obviously had a great year for them and continued to step up big, but they got other kids, too. So Miami, can't let their guard down. They got to get some stops, and that's going to be important. And obviously, we know that it's not going to be an every time deal. You're not going to, they're not going to go 3 and out every play or every possession. So, Miami knows what they're in for. They played that type of schedule. They've been on the road, and like you said, I'd be more fearful of a Louisville. Because you got a passer who can throw, but also running backs like Isaac Brown and those guys like that could do damage. So, and I think Miami did pretty well. They came out on top. Obviously, they gave up 478 yards, but you know what? That's going to happen when you have a highly explosive offense. I think the California game is more of an aberration because I don't think that, although this last weekend, Stanford, he threw for 419 yards and got the ACC Offensive Player of the Week. Mendoza, but it's just gonna be one of those games. I think it's gonna be a really entertaining game. Perfect time at 3:30, and like Miami comes out with a W, and then they move on to the following week to the championship game and against a team who's really played well. And but you know what, you got to take them one game at a time, because if you look too far down the road, you're gonna lose. And, so I think Miami's focus is squarely on Syracuse. And, They seem confident. Like I said in the post-game press conference the other day, they gave that little canned answer as we're trying to go 1-0. And I understand that, it's good locker room stuff. It's good on the field to rah everybody. But the reality is trying to go for 11th win, something that they haven't had in a long, long time.
Yeah, and as Kenty says in the chat, I do expect Miami to be pretty aggressive defensively because McCord, as I mentioned, second in the country in interceptions with 12. Hawaii's quarterback has thrown 13, so he's right there. And that's what Pitt did to him, and he turned it over a ton in that game. So he will do that, and it's especially if he starts to get into a rhythm, they're gonna have to disrupt that because he is kind of inconsistent. That's what he was at Ohio State too. He does have really bad games in him, and he has really good games in him. And obviously, hope number one is he's has one of his bad games, but you have to contribute to that and make it happen too. It's not like it happens by itself. So you got to kind of, I think, forcing the issue. Maybe I felt like they blitzed more against Wake Forest than we'd seen in previous games.
But that's because you mentioned that they're more of a run.
Yeah, they weren't. Well, they also weren't worried really about getting beat over the top, which here you will be again. We're talking a lot about McCord. I know Blue Yard still mentioned they're loaded at receivers, so they have some of the more talented receivers in the country in terms of making tough catches, making catches in traffic. So yeah, you do. I think that almost again forces you maybe a little bit more to putting pressure on to disrupt the actual releasing of the pass because. These guys catch a lot. Their catch rate is high. They're talented. One of the reasons he throws so many picks, he throws a lot of balls into coverage because they go get it. So be a test for the secondary, but
right. And they come out sky high because it's their last game, their last home game. I think it's senior day, and
it is. But what is your take? Do you think that's more of a distraction than? I always feel like it's a little weird. You call the seniors out. It's like it's their last game, and.
Yeah,
they come out, hug their families, and it's like, all right, let's go play football. Meanwhile, the other team is kind of just locked in preparing.
Well, it normally would be, but Miami's 10-1, and they want to, and they're a top 10 team, and Syracuse hasn't beaten a top 10 team in a while. So this is an opportunity, and it's like a threefold thing. It's senior day, it's your last game, and plus your opponent is one of the best offensive teams in perhaps the country, like them. But Miami's got something at stake too, and that's that's important to understand. Syracuse loses the game, oh well, so they'll go to the the Corn Bowl or the Belk Bowl or something like that. But if Miami wins, they go to the ACC title game. So everything's on the line for Miami. It's a win-win, for Miami all the way around. And Syracuse is really under no pressure, Bish. It's senior day and their last game, but. Yeah, they have a lot less to lose than Miami does in this game.
Yeah, I kind of view it the other way around. Like this is an opportunity for Miami, and I think this program's been building to this point. To me, it's a lot less like 2017 when kind of came out of nowhere. It was year 2 of ranked, and just all of a sudden winning a bunch of close games, found themselves in the top 5, and then. Obviously had a couple of great back-to-back performances before the bottom fell out, but this one felt like almost like they naturally arrived here. You saw like signs last year, but just couldn't. Certainly the quarterback position probably cost a few games. Being generous there. So then you get the best quarterback in the country. It almost feels more. I don't want to say earned because that 2017 definitely earned it. Like they started 10-0. That wasn't like they earned that, but it does feel like. They're ready to meet the moment where I feel like that team down the stretch was not. Once it got up to, they blew that game to Pitt when they were ranked second. And that was the first time that the playoff committee had kind of elevated them up above. Because even if you watch those Notre Dame highlights, like it's almost bizarre because I think Miami's ranked like 7th. They're the undefeated team. Notre Dame had a lot. So they're ranked like 4th. And it's just, so I think when those expectations landed on them, that team was not ready to deal with them. I feel like this one is, and I think they'll seize it. I think they'll view this as an opportunity to seize. Like, this is fun. This is why you do the extra practices in the off season is that you're ready to go win this game on the road. And so I think that is, I think they'll view this more as an opportunity versus like I know from a fan base that has spent 20 years watching this, it's a lot of trepidation that something bad is going to happen. I think the kids on this team view it the other way. They have a chance to go out there and do something that's, we've only made one ACC championship game, and this time will almost certainly, if they win on Saturday, be favored to win it. So I think they view this much more as an opportunity than as something that's to be afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a chance to make history at a time where Miami's really been building to this point. When we started this show in 2020, things were meh. They weren't going so well. Now, in year 2 of the Mario Cristobal era, coming into this season, there were questions, and there were doubts as to whether Mario could get it done. Especially after some of the performances last season, and now I feel like this is a chance to kind of not complete what Mario wants to do here, obviously, but it's a step that he can kind of put in his belt, a notch in the belt, if you will, for this program, and a chance to kind of get a signature win that helps elevate the program to the next level, because they've recruited really well. The results haven't been on the field yet. Now this is a chance to kind of build towards that part of it.
Yeah, and I think they are on the field this year. I mean, the 17 season kind of went off the road. There's some injuries. I mean, I think we all kind of knew, after that Notre Dame game, I was like, wait, are we actually as good as the record is? But, if you recall in that pick game last, I mean, at one point we pulled Malik Rozier and put in Evan Sheriffs. That's not a team that is settled and really number 2 in the country and had it. Like, there's no universe that Cam Ward is getting pulled from a game. Like, that's just not happening, right? And so I think that team was a lot less settled than this one is. This one has an identity. They know what they're doing, and I think they'll go out there and execute. Let's do a little underdog, and we'll come back and talk about kind of how the offense might approach this game. We spent some time on the defense, so we'll do that and then talk offense. That bouncing ball can only mean one thing. It's time to hoop. And with Underdog Fantasy, you can play higher or lower on all your favorite players, like Miami's own Tim Hardaway Jr. I love Underdog's Win Now feature, which lets you cash out whenever you want. So join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog. And with their Pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Download the app today and use code 5REASONS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cast instantly. That's UnderdogFantasy.com and the offer code 5REASONS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cast. That is FIVEREASONS. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY. And we're back. I guess before we talk offense, a couple of kind of questions here we can kind of deal with. So obviously this was, I'm assuming this comment was spurned on by Luther Campbell's taking a shot at Kevin Beard. I can see Blue rolling his eyes. I think we're of one mind on this. I mean, you earn your way onto the field, and our receivers this year have been excellent, and there's not snaps for the backup. For almost the third strings, we play a lot of receivers. They're just, we have 4 really top receivers that are taking the bulk of the receptions. And oh well, I mean, this is my, you want your better players to play. I don't honestly. I thought he was joking, but I guess he was serious.
Well, because one of his players is the guy who's not getting any, and that's Ray.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? Take an all ACC guy, the all-time leading receiver in Miami history, out of the game just to appease somebody? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, again, this is a team trying to win a championship. It's not let's give everyone snaps to make sure that their high school handlers are happy. It's just
But you see, there's a way to voice your opinion there, Vish, and you don't go for the jugular and say he's the worst coach ever. And, it's, I've known Kevin since he was a freshman in high school at Plantation. And I've always really thought he was a fair guy and worked really hard. And then all of a sudden to take extreme shots at him like that. Listen, if you don't agree with, the rotation or what he's doing, that's one thing. And you just say, you know what, I think that, they should be able to, get more guys involved. Okay, end of subject. But you don't tear the guy down and tell him he's the worst freaking wide receiver coach in America. Please. That just makes Luther Campbell look stupid. I mean, and as you said, I mean, you look at some of the, and as you mentioned, Miami's one of the most productive teams, especially offensively in the country. So what are you saying? I mean, but you take a look at somebody like Kevin Beard, and I don't even think he cares what he says.
Well, I do wonder if part of the reason you mentioned, there's proper ways to do this. I'm just assuming, if he tried to pursue, some kind of a back channel, they'd probably be like, "What, are you kidding me? I'm not talking about this right now. Trying to go up to Syracuse and win the ACC. Like, you want me to talk about who's getting? I don't know whose snaps he thinks should be cut, because we have 4, so we're already rotating. It's not like there's really even back, because between Horton, Brown, Restrepo, and George, like, we're rotating. And then that doesn't even count.
And your tight end.
Yeah, it doesn't even count Arroyo there. I mean, where are the snaps coming from? Because those other guys are coming out of the game a lot. Like, you watch our games, like, we don't play 4 wide and a tight end. There's always running backs out there. So they're rotating, our top receivers, and they're all coming off the field. And you're saying that someone else should be able to crack into that rotation? Because all of those guys that we mentioned are wide receiver 1 on other teams. And
they were pretty balanced in the last game, too, when you think about it. Would they run them for over 200, pass for 250, 300? I mean, I'm just saying, it's not like it's one-sided, like they're just, throwing all the time, but it's a balanced offense. They predicated that at the beginning because of the quarterback that you have, that you want to kind of, keep everybody honest by running. And I think that's going to be a big difference for Miami, too. I think they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to run the ball, eat the clock up, and get, and wear out Syracuse's defense.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. That's one of the things.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry.
You don't have to edit the podcast where I try to chop this into topic-based episodes. I have a fun time after the show. We jump all over the place, which I'm probably more guilty of than anyone else. So, I mean, as Blue said, that's why he's talking about. But it's not doing Ray any favors, and it's making him look bad. Like, you're calling out, and as Blue said, calling him the worst wide receiver coach in the country, the history of the country, or whatever he said. It's just he has the most productive unit in the country right now. So that kind of, it's sure that's not true.
Yeah, if the worst wide receiver coach has 4 receivers with over 500 yards, then sign me up to have the worst wide receiver coach in the country.
Slug Bruce, appreciate the donation. Yeah, I mean, look, their time will come. That's why it's kind of ridiculous, because most of these receivers are gone. Especially
this year, I was going to say,
yeah. So, like, their time will come. Andre Johnson didn't play when we had Santana Moss and Reggie Wayne and Andre King playing in front of him. He didn't play, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
you gotta practice hard, do your work, and your time will come. And like you said, he's a fair coach. It would be unfair to everyone else to put guys out there and get them snaps when they're not the better player and they're not earning it. And again, we don't watch practice every day, but the production of our receivers is ridiculously high. It's hard to imagine that inserting another receiver in that rotation is going to make things better. It's kind of trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. So, I think it's just nonsense. I understand. I do appreciate, standing up for your guy. This isn't helping.
There's a way to do it,
and this isn't going to help Ray either. Just another quick high school topic here. Your thoughts on if it's Manatee versus St. Thomas in the semis?
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that'd be a real, like old days. Yeah, you're right. It could be. Jacques Green, former receiver, doing a tremendous job as a head coach at Manatee. They have some really good kids. St. Thomas got a little bit of a hurdle this week. First time in 22 years they're not a number 1 seed, so they go on the road, play Atlantic. They should win. But the bigger picture in the state championship game would have them against either Tampa Bay Tech or Lakeland. So that would be a nice little state title game too. But yeah, and there's a lot of talent that's going to be down here in the state championship games. It's in South Florida at Pitbull Stadium on the campus of FIU, and
he named it after himself. That's legendary.
I told you when Chaminade played St. Thomas at Pitbull that night, I saw him. He was he was just like a regular dude walking up and down. He was that's neat. What an honor, and plus he's giving a lot of money to the program.
Yeah, no, it's really great that he supports the local university like that. Also, I mean, again, this is such a bizarre schedule that they have now in terms of calendar, and Mario talked about this. As press conferences, I was asked about National Signing Day is 8 days away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right after the indicates of the 2 most important game stretch they've had 7-8 years. So it's a fun time for Mario, but he rightly pointed out, look, if you're trying to close your class, like he's like, yeah, those are always some surprises, but if you don't have your stuff together by now,
I agree.
You're screwed anyway. He's like, it's a year-round thing for us, and he's like, it's like cramming for a test the night before. You're probably not going to do well. You need to have prepared already. So he's like, he's not bothered by it. He's focused on Syracuse,
he's got a really good class going, and they're gonna take home a lot of those kids. And
right, and that's his point. He's like, I already put the work in on this. We recruit year-round, but right now we got football games to win, and win the next 2, and the recruits will really be knocking the door.
Right now, let's get on that Ty Wise son's train for the next class, because that kid's a beast.
Should be able to get a legacy offensive lineman. Come on,
well, I'll tell you, that would be a huge. I mean, the kid's 6'4", 295, and 2-time state West weightlifting champions. 47 offers, including Georgia and Alabama and Ohio. He's going to Oregon this week. But when I talked to Ty Wise, he said he's been down here 3 times, and Ty's never come down here once with him because he just doesn't want, there's enough pressure, I'm sure, having that last name and knowing his dad played here.
Played the same position as the coach.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. But that's definitely the prize recruit, Vish, for the next cycle.
I mean, we got to land that fish.
Yeah.
You heard anything on this? I mean, I'm assuming there's going to be. I mean, this has started a silly season where.
That's what after Saturday night. I would imagine that's when he started.
Saw that offense, and all of a sudden,
3 points
life comes at you fast, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to play everyone wants to play in the Miami offense now.
But then again, he's making that comment not knowing who's going to be the quarterback at Miami too. So.
So we'll see. It is silly season starting. Like you'll be surprised at the number of our kids that will enter the portal too. Even though we're likely to be headed to a playoff game.
And the 105-man roster limit goes into effect too. So you're going to see a lot of names and a lot of tough conversations in the coming weeks due to that roster limit.
Yeah, no, that's
probably not for Miami so much, but for other programs.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna see some of these kids hit the portal out of Miami that have have potentially the chance to be part of a national championship here and still in the portal. That's a
lot of tough conversations.
Reality of it, hitting the portal in the middle. No, because some people they'll enter in December.
Yep.
And that's going to include off of the 12 playoff teams.
Yep.
So. It's interesting times. The calendar is all messed up, and so we're just along for the ride. Signing day.
There is no true off season.
So signing day the week before conference championship games. People in the portal before the playoff games. It's a new era. But to Saturday and the task at hand for the offensive. I know you started to touch on this. Certainly, I'm in agreement. This is a game you run the football. Their run defense stinks, and you can possess the ball and keep that offense off the field.
Yeah, no, that's what you got to do. It's got to be a good. I'm sure they're going over the scenario a billion times, and after they do a little practicing on Thanksgiving morning and have a have a little team bonding meal together, and they get back to work, leave Friday, and then take care of business. And that's what it's all about. They've got an opportunity to do something, like you say, that 20-something years of Miami teams haven't been able to do. And and then you could see, I ran into Lamar Thomas at the game the other day before the game, and he's talking about just how the vibe feels a lot different, because it's being run by a guy who has an established head football coach and somebody who has bleeds green and orange, and left a situation, guys. Let's face it, that guy would have had a blank check in Oregon for decades. So he came back, and he wants to, you listen to him in the post-game press conference, and he says, this is just basically scratching the surface of where we want to be. And look at the turnaround a couple of years ago, and we mentioned this all off season, DJ, about the roster, how different the roster looked. And I think he feels today that in 2 years the roster is going to look much, much, much better. So that's what and it's a never-ending thing, especially with the portal, that and all the money that's thrown around in these NIL deals. But it's going to change. It's going to change. He has an objective as long as Miami keeps winning. And, the recruits see that. And a lot of the kids around the country who, as you said, aren't playing for the greatest teams this year, but have a lot of talent, are going to see what happened here in Miami this year and figure that if they come, others will be there. And between that and the recruits that Miami has coming in. And again, I don't want to reiterate to FSU fans, but that's the reason why you've fallen off, because of the fact that you didn't recruit well. I mean, if you recruited like Miami recruited, you could have, made some inroads. You could have had a guy like OJ Frederick, or had, a defensive lineman like Scott, or, some of these other freshmen who they're plugging and playing. And that's another thing when you're coming to a game, like, these recruits came last week to see Miami play, and they're 9-1, excuse me. And you're seeing a lot of kids that you played with and against that are already on the field. You say to yourself, wait a minute. They're in contention to be a playoff team. Plus, they're playing a lot of young kids. And, that's a big selling point. When people ask me about, well, what do you think about this FSU game? Can Miami lose or win, kids, or a Florida game? Does Miami? No, it's predicated on where you're going. It's not where you are now, because the thing is like you say, you're going to lose one of the most prolific quarterbacks in France and history. And obviously one of the top wide receivers the school's ever had as far as productivity. And you're going to lose a kid like Jalen Rivers, and you're going to lose a lot of talent. So Miami has the ability to plug in a lot of these young kids who are getting a lot of reps now, plus the transfer portal. So that's big. That's a big thing. And then, for Miami to turn things around and the kids to come out and see them winning and, and coming back in a lot of games and showing, listen, I like the Dawson. He's really innovative. He's getting all his receivers involved. Believe me, I understand what Luke's saying about Ray, but at the same time, you got to play your way in. And, nothing is given to anybody. Listen, Ohio State has twice the amount of 5 stars that Miami has at the wide receiver position. And they're not. You don't hear anybody bitching and moaning. You don't hear, guys, right. Hey, how can Jeremiah Smith getting all the play? He's a freshman. Well, because he's a beast, and then you've got a lot of talent on a lot of these teams. Look at Georgia. There's 10 offensive linemen that deserve more playing time. But you know what? You win as a team, you lose as a team. And that's it's not an individual deal.
And to Mario's credit, he's also embraced not only the transfer portal, but NIL as well. And whether or not folks agree with NIL and the transfer portal is one thing, but in today's day and age of college football, if you don't embrace either NIL, the transfer portal, or both, you get left behind. And we saw him embrace NIL specifically, with Cam Ward. I'll use that as an example. And he's really gone into the transfer portal over the years. So it's been good to see him, continue to adapt and, try to keep up and succeed in this college football landscape that is always changing.
Yeah, and so I mean, we got some questions about the game in the chat as well. Yeah, I think AJ Allen is
Yeah.
likely to hit the portal, but I mean that was what Rocky's comment was about. We're talking about some of these kids will hit the portal. If he's behind Lyle, there's a pretty decent chance there. But DJ, in terms of the offensive approach to the Syracuse defense, how do you think the Canes will approach this game?
I think it'll probably be a mix of both run and the pass because the Syracuse defense isn't particularly strong, but I liked how much more balance they've had in the last couple of weeks. Jordan Lyle, we talked about him yesterday. He's come on really strong in the running back room because we know that Miami can pass for 400 yards and score 42 points, but I think it'll be a little bit of balance just to continue to get the running backs in a rhythm. And, Restrepo will have his catches. George will have his catches. And I think it'll be business as usual. And, this is a game where offensively, I think Miami can really assert their dominance. Syracuse's defense is okay, but it's definitely something Miami can handle. So, I think we'll see the usual 300-yard game from Cam Ward with some runs sprinkled in here and there, and a strong day from the running backs.
Yeah, Syracuse's defense gives up 6.2 yards per play, which is 103rd in the country.
Yeah.
So that's certainly, I hate to do this again, but we're going to lean on the offense to control the game. I do hope if the running game, is as effective as it was against Wake Forest, we have the patience to stick with it more than we did the game in the early stages, because that game was always a matter of whenever we just commit to just running it down their throat, the game will be over. And finally, to start the fourth quarter, they did that. And when you go on the road, the crowd will be into it. Running the football is like an elixir to a lot of the issues that could go wrong. You're not really nearly as worried about. Obviously, you can fumble, but you're not worried about interceptions. You're controlling it. You're wearing the defense down. You're keeping their offense off the field. You're doing also, if you can effectively run the ball. Doesn't mean you just completely take the ball out of Cam Ward's hands, but I'm hoping if given the stable of running backs now with Jordan Lyle as well making a huge impact last weekend, that you have fresh running backs you can rotate in, that you're not afraid to be a run heavy team for this game. And because I feel like this is the type of game that lends itself to that.
Because let's be honest too, Miami opponents, I noticed this Saturday as well, they've come out with a blueprint offensively where they like to control the clock and get 2 to 3 yards here in the run. And, they're not exactly in a rush to get down the field so as to limit Miami's offensive possessions. And, like I said, I saw it a little bit with Wake Forest. So not that Miami can't score or anything like that, but their offensive possessions themselves may be a bit limited.
Yeah, but I almost think it's a chance for Miami to flip the script here, because Syracuse is going to throw. So they're not going to play a ball control running game, which, Wake Forest tried and couldn't really get effectively, which Georgia Tech did very effectively. So I do think, Miami can actually put it on them. Hey, we're going to control the ball, have your quarterback sit over there for 5 minutes, then come in cold and try to complete a bunch of passes, because that's what teams have been doing to the Canes. So I do think they can kind of reverse that a little bit here.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be – I think there might be a sprinkle of run in there for Syracuse, but I wouldn't expect them to throw deep shots down the field. I would expect kind of more middle intermediate type of passes to kind of control the clock a little bit, because you're right, they don't run a ton. So I can kind of see them control the clock, but in a different way, not necessarily via the run game, but with the quick passing game and, screens and things like that.
Yeah, it's where the Canes will need to be disruptive. Just get them off schedule, right? I mean, we know what that does to us too, right? When you cause a negative play, cause a turnover,
right?
That. But I just think with what's at stake here, there's the simplest way for the Canes to win this game is just to run over Syracuse, and I think they can do that based on the way Syracuse's defense has been this year. Even UConn got a couple of big runs against them. I feel like that they're susceptible to giving up the yardage in the running game, and once they start to have to stack the box, then you can kill them with the passing game. But we've seen, the teams try to do is take away the big plays of the receivers and force the Canes to drive the ball. And They just need to be patient and do that. Don't need to force it. Don't need to make things happen. Just run the ball. When we throw medium range passes and move the ball down the field. There isn't a secondary, despite what Luther Campbell said, there isn't a secondary in this country that can cover these receivers.
Nope.
So they're either going to take away things underneath or play off and let you throw underneath. And teams have been doing the latter. They've been, we're not going to get beat over the top. We're, as Blue talked about yesterday, we're going to roll coverage to Restrepo and make sure he's not the one that beats us. All right. We got a lot of other good players. Run your 8-yard curl, throw the ball, we'll get 8 yards. Just do that until you're in the end zone. It's not, it's something, just as long as we keep it simple, as Carmen said, let's run the ball. It's going to put the pressure on them too when you control the clock. And then, balanced and just, get Lyle touches. We do have between Lyle and Fletcher, and even Martinez has shown this ability because he's so hard to bring down. We have several running backs capable of making big plays too. They do give up a lot of big plays. So if you stick with the running game, the chunk plays will even come out of that. So that's what I'm there.
And I think when you said to keep it simple too, I think that goes for Cam Ward. I mean, I know he loves to kind of run with the ball and freelance and throw the football down the field, but like we talked about yesterday in Blue, I think you talked about it. Take the checkdowns, take the short passes. You don't have to, chuck the ball 75 yards every play. Just take what the defense gives you. And I think, if he can do that and just keep things simple and keep the clock moving, that would be important too. Because I know sometimes he misses those short throws and it's hard to criticize him when he's one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the country. But, just a little bit more short and kind of intermediate passes again, and I think that will be important just to kind of see something else in his repertoire.
Yeah, no, he's got all of the tools in his tool belt. I would also, in addition to what Kenty said here, as we kind of head towards wrapping up, I have no issues in a game like this. If you need to, just turning around and saying, you know what, Elijah Lofton in a fullback, let's just knock him off the ball. At some point, we're going to outman them. Like I would rather if things start to get stuck a little bit. Hey, we're gonna be physical here, and because there is an element of if you hit them, I know, and what Blue says is definitely true, and we've seen it, right? We saw it against Duke when the Canes were up 14-0 quickly and all of a sudden found themselves down 11 points in the third quarter, like no lead is safe. But I do think there's an element of you can come out and hit them in the face here and physically impose your will early. That can carry through the game, and I think the Canes need to come out to do that. So one last question, then we'll do predictions, and Jazz just texted me his prediction. So I will read that out on air. But here's a good kind of ender for this segment. Scale of 0 to 10. What will your nerves be at kickoff? Given that, as we've talked about, the stakes are high here. Go with you, DJ, first.
I'd say 4. I have enough confidence in this offense to where I'm a little bit concerned, but I'm not overly concerned. I think the offense will carry the day.
I say 7 or 8 because of the fact that, like I told you before, this game is everything for Syracuse. It's they will come away with a win here, and this makes their season. And
it gets them to 9 wins too, which is I don't think most
like
people realize
it's senior day. It's a lot of people be in that building. A lot of these guys who hadn't been around the program for a long time are going to come back and want to be on the sideline, and Quadre Ismail and all those guys.
Is he actually going to be there? It's like pull a random Syracuse player out of here.
Don McPherson and Marvin Harrison and all these guys like that.
Pasqualoni out there.
Although I think Marvin Harrison will have he'll probably that would be Pasqualoni. Here's a good one. But it should be. I think it's going to be kind of a lot of anxiety because you're going to want to see what happens because they're going to come out just higher than a kite. And let's see what happens. Miami has to turn down the volume of the place and that you only do that by scoring, and we'll see. Because as I said, go ahead. What do you think, Vish?
If they have Dwight Freeney.
We'll
just bring Brian McKinney with us, and then he won't do anything. So that's a throwback.
Rob Conrad will be in the building. All these guys.
For me, I'm closer to DJ. I would say a 2 or a 3. I'm excited. I think
Okay.
it's an opportunity for them to show what Miami can do, what they're made of. I think these are, you're on the stage. Everyone's going to be watching, expecting Miami to screw it up, and I think they're going to go out there and dominate. Actually, I'm feeling very good about. Okay, this is stupid stuff for me reading too much into things, but the one question that stumped Mario in his press conference today when they asked him what his favorite Thanksgiving dish is, and you could tell it was almost in his head like it's Thanksgiving this week. Like he is so this program, as you said, Blue.
Oh, it's Thanksgiving this week.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say that out loud, but it's almost like his attitude was like. I eventually said, I think picadillo, but
oh yeah, that's
not.
I was on the Mayflower for sure.
As far as I'm concerned, but I think that's so. But I think that's this program. They're so locked in, like they're focused. Like they're not going to get distracted by it. And they're going to go out there and I think execute because they've been working to this point. And, they're not along for the ride here. This is just another step for them on a journey they're taking. So I think I have supreme confidence. Kenty, who asked the questions, got coming to 6, a little concerned. I think these are the games you show up for. Just one last thing on Syracuse. I mentioned this in our group chat, but they have played an unbelievable number of close games. They have out of their 8 wins, 6 are 1-score games. So 2 of them are in overtime, including the
UNLV game.
Yeah,
so let's not talk about that. But
they also beat Virginia Tech in overtime.
In a game that they were down by 20.
Yeah, they were down by a lot. Their losses are to Stanford at home, at Pitt. That was the one they got killed in by 28 points, and then at Boston College by 6. I mean, even last week, they only beat UConn by a touchdown. So they've been a lot of close games. That's kind of the way they play. So that's another,
I didn't realize they played Holy Cross. That's about 20 minutes for me.
You could have gone and scouted them back in
September. I know. I didn't even realize that, or else I would have gone. I would have gone to see Kyle McCord.
Yeah, but that one and Ohio are the only ones they won by more than 1 score.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, they should have beaten Holy Cross by more than 1 score. I'm sorry, Holy Cross. But
no, they did. They did. They beat them by 28. That one in Ohio, they beat by 16. Holy Cross, they beat by 28. Every other game was a 1-score game, including 2 in overtime. So they like to play those nail biters.
What did Jazz pick, by the way?
So, all right, we'll start with that. So, Mr. Santana. So, Jazz's pick is 33-28 Miami.
All
right,
okay.
And then just, we got to get our man Ralph in here. All right, he's come through.
There he is.
45-42, which actually is...
You might be right.
This week it might be.
This may be the closest you're going to be, Ralph.
When you picked it for FSU, then, probably not. But this one might be, this could be in there. I mean, Louisville was pretty close, too, here. Couple of one defensive touchdown from Miami and a kickoff touchdown for Louisville on off the board there, and that score would have hit. So, all right, DJ, what's your prediction?
Ooh, this is gonna be a close one, but I'm gonna say 41-32.
41-32 is DJ's prediction. Blue.
As at the beginning of the year, I picked Miami to lose this game, but I also picked them to lose to Florida. So you take it what you want. I've kind of come around a little bit. I mean, Miami's defense, especially against really good teams, hasn't done well. That's why I'm picking Miami 50, Syracuse 44 in overtime.
Wow.
Overtime.
Okay.
Oh, my God. Okay, so whoever Kenty, when you ask the question, if it gets to overtime, I'm a 12 on that 10.2. At that point, I'm not even watching. I'm just like in the fetal position in the corner shaking at that point. We do not need any overtime.
They won't have to kick the extra point. It'll be 44-44. They'll get in there with the 6 points, and boom, that's it.
All righty. Kenty's got 45-30 Canes. I agree with Panther G here. I think the Canes are overdue for a complete game. I think the defense kind of, got it going a little bit last week. I think the fact that it's pretty one-dimensional will help a lot. And
could you imagine 93-point over? Wow.
So I am gonna go with Miami 37, Syracuse 11. I think they're gonna shut them down.
Okay.
I don't know that McCord finishes this game. I think they're going to light it up and pressure and hit Syracuse.
Spoken like a true Hurricane fan.
Yeah,
it's time. It's time to embrace the
from the man who's picked 12-0 the last 4 years.
It was not last year was 11-1. This year was 12-0.
You were forced this year to get
closer.
a loss.
I was closer this year. Last year I missed by 5-6 games, lose counting. But yeah. So this is, I guess, qualifies as low scoring for Miami game 30-23. Muhammad's got 44-31. I'm glad that no one's lost confidence to the point you're picking Syracuse. So we all got the Canes coming, and so next week we'll have a very busy show with signing day and hopefully previewing the ACC championship game. But I think this is the segment everyone is in the chat for. Blue, are we ready?
Yep.
All right, let's get the technology going, as we like to say.
1984, Gators and the Hurricanes. 1984. This was one of those games that, if you remember, had a lot of talent. Miami coming off that national championship game in that year. And, I had an opportunity to watch that game. The Hurricanes, I'll show you in just a second here. Let me get the deal out here. Charlie Pell was the head coach. Wow. I know you never heard of Charlie Pell. But here was like, if you look, here was like the lineup in the game on both sides of the ball. It gives you an opportunity to see some of the players. I don't know if you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, you can see Alonzo Highsmith, Warren Williams, Stanley Shakespeare, Kosar. Eddie Brown, Kosar. What a lineup!
Is that the what's his name? Was that Kerwin Bell was the quarterback for Florida at that time?
I wasn't reading the Florida side. I was looking at the.
I know you were. No, Dale Dormany from freaking Hialeah was the quarterback. Wow. But that's Lomas Brown from Ricky Nattiel. Those guys played in the NFL.
Yeah, Ricky Nattiel, I remember on the Broncos.
John L. Williams played with Seattle as well. Miami had a lot of talent on that team. Darryl Fullington and Kevin Fagan. Dallas Cameron, who was Julio Cortez. Yep, Eddie Brown. That was a great time for the Hurricanes. They had just come off their first ever national championship, and then they started getting dudes to come in. So there's your show and tell. I have a bunch of things that I ran across today, but I thought that was a little pertinent.
Yeah, that
look back.
So that's not the Pell Grant scandal.
Yeah.
Pell Grants are a type of scholarship we defrauded.
Yeah.
It's a needs-based scholarship.
He had his own problems without having to have something.
The Pell Grant scandal, history lesson for those of you. So Pell Grants are a need-based scholarship, and we were falsifying forms to get our athletes scholarship money that they didn't qualify for.
No doubt.
So we actually defrauded the federal government and frankly got lucky. We didn't get more trouble for committing federal crimes. So this was not $100 handshakes. This was defrauding a federal scholarship program. So it was a pretty serious one there.
It was. Hey, before we leave, wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
No, you too, Blue.
Appreciate everybody. Everyone. Yeah. See everybody in Charlotte. Certainly, I know you guys will be around the table giving thanks for what has happened this year.
Mm-hmm.
And but I appreciate you guys, and we'll
convene
next Sunday.
Yeah. Sunday at 11 a.m. we will do our post game show. You and DJ and Jazz, wherever you are, Jazz. Happy Thanksgiving.
Jazz is as inconsistent as Miami's defense. So,
well, I needed him to show up this week. Then we got to win this game.
Yeah, he does.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and to all the viewers and listeners out there. Hopefully we'll be seeing everyone in Charlotte in a couple of weeks. Go Canes on Saturday.
No doubt.
That game is at 3:30 on Saturday, and then we'll obviously be doing our morning after show 11 a.m. on Sunday. Hopefully talking about the Canes.
Hopefully a W. Hey, to take off and go to basketball. Who won that Charleston Classic? It wasn't Nevada. Please don't tell me.
I have to. I mean, honestly, after we finished it.
You forgot. I know they were playing
Our
Oklahoma
game
State.
was very early in the day yesterday. Hold on, I'll tell you real quick.
Because I know they were playing Oak State.
Yeah, it is. Nevada did win 90-78. That's the 5th place game, though. Hold on.
Oh, that was for the 5th place?
Yeah, that was the 5th place game.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, because we played Oklahoma State after we lost the first game. So I'll tell you in a second. Let's see. Seton Hall won the 3rd place game over FAU. This is very hard to navigate. I know this is great content for everyone.
That's a pretty good tournament.
Yeah,
it'd be nice if we played in it. Drake won the.
Oh, Drake won?
Yeah, they beat Vanderbilt 81-70. So
they got that's Coach Signati from Indiana. That's that guy who brought all those kids with him from that Division II national championship.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very familiar with them. I saw them do passing and layup drills for 40 minutes on Thursday afternoon. So, anyway, we did a buckets last night on the state of the men's program. If you're interested in that topic, yes, Greg, good ender. Happy Turkey Day. We'll talk to y'all on
all right,
Sunday.
guys.
Go Canes, big one.
Canes.
Go win the big one.
The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Kane Show. You know.